Come take a trip in my airship. Come take a sail among the stars. Come have a ride around Venus. Come have a spin around Mars. Show us while we're giddy. Show us to see while we fool. Come take a trip in my airship and we'll visit the man in the moon.
Welcome, loyal airmen. Remember us? To Airship 27. All right, podcast number 92. And before we get any further, let me welcome my co-host as ever, Chief Engineer Rob Davis. Morning, Rob.
We're recording this in the morning for those of you who will be watching this at other hours of the day or night.
Right. We just mentioned the fact, Rob just caught us up on the fact that it's been 3 months since we joined you. Life gets in its way, as it always does.
Yep.
I took a trip, Valerie and I took a trip back to New England at the start of October, which we do annually to visit friends and family. Had a great time. In the process, in the meantime, Rob went and added to his family with a brand new grandson.
In fact, they're visiting downstairs while we're doing this, because I'm up in the studio, up in the upper portion of the house. But yeah, they're downstairs visiting today.
I saw a beautiful picture that your daughter-in-law posted recently on Facebook, and mentioning how fast little Rowan is growing.
Yeah, well, at that age they grow like crazy. It's like, it's pretty amazing. I hadn't seen him like in about a week, and he seems so much bigger already in just a week. So yeah.
Yeah. And how old is Renly?
She'll be 2 in January, late January.
All right.
So yeah. Yeah, she's growing like a weed too. So
yeah. Oh, good. Hey, congratulations to everybody. I am so happy for you guys. Yeah. Nothing like a baby. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you think about being a grandparent, but until you don't know what it's going to feel like until it actually happens, and then you go, wow, it's a whole new world now. Kind of like when I became parent, it was a whole new world. So yeah,
it is. And I have to add, in the interim, we got back from New England just in time for a wedding. And our granddaughter, Cora,
it's been
married her now husband, Calvin, and I had the unique privilege and honor to officiate at that wedding, which was really special.
Yeah, so. You wore your Hogwarts regalia, didn't you?
Yeah. Life is so strange. I want to share this little story because years ago we were, at Universal or whatever, and we were going through Harry Potter, world or whatever. And I'm watching all these people walking around with these Harry Potter robes, right, with the school emblems on them and everything else. And I'm taken with that. So we go by one shop and I see where they're on sale. And Valerie goes, "You like those?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I think they're really neat." So, well, let's go look at them. So we go in and I checked the price tag, and I'm not going to say anything here. That's their business, but it was steep. It was really steep.
Of course it was.
Yeah. Okay. So I basically said, it's not for us, thanks. And God bless Val. She's just like, look, she goes, "We're never going to get back here. You like it, get it." All right. So we buy it, right? Since that time, I've only ever worn it once before, which was when I was teaching a class on comics writing at the local community college. And on the last night of class, I wore it to class. Well, my students went crazy, right? And that was it. Put it away for, 2.5 years now. And then when Cora and Calvin come to me about officiating the wedding, Cora's like, "Can you wear your Hogwarts robe? Can you wear?" So I'm getting use out of it. All right. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. I'm glad we got it. All right. Yep. Hey, look, all our loyal airmen out there. Okay. Sorry for like we said, the long disparity, but we didn't have many books at the start of fall.
Pretty slow.
Right. And then as ever, the carousel turns around and they started popping out like popcorn, which is why we're back. All right. And we've got some great titles to talk to you about. They've been out for a while. But sadly, before we really get started, we have another one of those little moments where we want to say farewell to a good friend, to both Rob and myself, and that is artist Steve Erwin, who passed away last week unexpectedly, really unexpectedly. I remember seeing a posting, and Rob, you can back me up on this. R.A. Jones had been talking with Steve. Steve was an Oklahoma boy and was living in Texas.
Well, yep.
And you knew him long before I did. All right, R.A. and all those guys from the comic community down there. And Steve had actually gotten a hold of R.A. suggesting a possible reunion with all you guys next year sometime, all right, at a local convention or whatever. And then, it's like a couple days go by, maybe at most, and you get on Facebook and there's R.A. saying he's passed. Now, I don't know if you know or not, but I believe he was 63.
That sounds right. Yeah, that's about right. I'm a few years older than him. Yeah. So yeah, that sounds about right.
So when did you two first hook up?
I'm trying to remember whether I met him. It was either at a Kansas City show or an Oklahoma show where he and I sat next to each other, and we visited. And I've got a little thing here. So I met Steve a few times at conventions in the 80s and 90s, mostly in Kansas City, Tulsa, Oklahoma. But I have some recollection of seeing him in Chicago as well, though I'm not sure of that particular memory. He always struck me as a quiet, kind soul and very talented. I loved his work whenever I saw it, especially on Checkmate from DC. I hadn't seen or heard from him since the 2000s, but still consider him a friend and a colleague. I'm very saddened at this news, and my heart goes out to his friends and his family. The comics art bullpen in heaven just gained a strong addition. That's what I want. That's what I wanted to say about him.
Amen.
Like I said, I hadn't seen him. It may have been 20 years.
Yeah.
But I considered him a friend, and he was always friendly and like I said, very talented. He did Checkmate, which was the big thing, and then he also did an adaptation of, I believe, Batman Returns.
Right, he did. Yeah, exactly.
Incredible. I don't remember who inked. Don't remember who inked him on that, but the inking was just very, very spot on as well. So whoever did that as great stuff. But he'll be missed.
I mean, if it hadn't been for Steve and I.
Yeah. You've got a story to tell about.
Yeah, we crossed paths. I was trying to break into the business, in the comic business, and Steve showed up with a bunch of other Texas comic creators that time. They had Elite Comics, I believe it was called, and they were traveling the country. They were going to comic shops around the country, and they ended up in New England, our neck of the woods. And the guy who ran the shop called me up and said, "Hey, we got a bunch of Texas comic creators here. You want to come down and meet them?" And sure, always love to meet new people. Like I said, I'm still just trying to break into the business.
Yeah.
And so I go and I meet Steve for the first time, and we spent the day together there while they were hawking their comics and whatever. He and I sat down.
Accents.
Yeah, pretty much. You got it. And somewhere
he had an Oklahoma drawl.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And somewhere in all of that, we got to talking about those great characters that were, not being used anymore. All right, that nobody, Flash Gordon, Tarzan, all this, and the Green Hornet. All right, and as it turns out, both Steve and I had been big fans of the Van Williams and Bruce Lee, iteration on television in the 60s. So before we parted company, we traded information, telephone numbers, and all that. And Steve's basically, well, maybe we could do up a proposal together and pass it around to the comic companies. You writing, me drawing. I'm all for that. So shake hands, leave, say so long, and Steve gets back on their tour of the country in comic shops. I get back home and I start working. And sure enough, we start corresponding back and forth. And he starts sending me sketches of a new Green Hornet. He had the idea for a female Kato. All right. I get a hold of my good friend from Massachusetts, Will Murray, who had written several articles on the Green Hornet, both the classic Universal serials, the radio program, and even the TV show for Starlog magazine. God bless Will. He sends me a huge packet of reprints of all his articles.
Man.
Yeah, and that was my research. So I eventually do this whole legacy thing. Steve's on board 100%. And now we decide, hey, you know what? We're going to San Diego this year, and we're going to bring the proposal, and off we go. He brings his wife, Brenda. Valerie comes with me. Somewhere's in that being shown around, meeting publishers and editors, I run across the folks at Now Comics, leave them with the proposal, as everybody knows. And then we all bid goodbye, bye-bye. Well, let's hope something comes from all this glad handing and shaking hands or whatever. We come back to New England, Steve and Brenda go back to Texas. And sure enough, all right, the thing happens, the Green Hornet's going to sell. All right, I'm ecstatic. I call Steve. Steve, they bought the Green Hornet. They're going to make a comic out of it. We're going to do it. And this is pause on the other end of the line. And then it goes, I got a call too. Oh, yeah. DC wants me to do Superman. Ron, there's no way I can do the Green Hornet. You know, it's just it's
What you gotta do?
Yeah, right. It's fate. It's those kind of things. And happily, as I've told the story 100 times, basically I started going through all the personal business cards I'd collected because I remember meeting Jeff Butler at the con for the first time, who was a huge Green Hornet fan. And I called Jeff. Jeff said, oh, yeah, he quit his job at TSR as art
the
director.
D&D people, the Dungeons and Dragons people, he quit them to do the Green Hornet.
To do the Green Hornet. In the meantime, you know, I wish Steve all the luck in the world. And like I said, our careers just took off. We were going this way, that way. He was doing great with Superman, whatever, until he co-created Checkmate, which was his big thing, right?
Yeah.
As time went on, it got to be too much for him. There were health issues involved with meeting a deadly schedule and whatever.
I've talked to him about that.
I just want to end this with one more little story about Steve that's personal to me. And that's a couple of years after he ended up working at a toy design kind of company. Texas.
Yeah.
You know, when you get those premiums at McDonald's, you get the little happy box with the
action figures.
Action figures. Right. They would draw that at this company for those commercial freebies or whatever. And he loved it. It paid better money, no stress. They'd had a daughter by then, Paige, their first. And one day I get a call from Steve, right? And he goes, would you guys like some company? And I'm like, excuse me? He says, Brenda and I have never really been through New England. He says, at one time you and I met at the comic shop years ago. And I'm like, yeah, Valerie's like, yeah, tell him to come, please. All right. Because she'd already met Brenda at San Diego Con. And I'm trying to think, I think Paige might have been 7 or 8 at that time. And this was before Danny was born, their last child. And so sure enough, they fly to New Hampshire and spend a week with us. And we took them all over Maine. We took them to the seacoast and the mountains and everything else. Literally had a blast. And then that was it. That was the last time we saw each other. It was a fun time, and we all parted company as good friends. I watched, his career and stuff, etc. So, getting the news about his passing really, really hurt and saddened me to no end, and allowed me to reconnect with his wife, Brenda, and Paige on Facebook. Paige is a young lady now.
No doubt.
Yeah, graduated from college. All right. Has got her degree in art, chip off the old block.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Works in the business now as an art designer, program designer, whatever. All right.
Oh.
And while we were exchanging emails, and I was telling her about my memories of her dad and et cetera, right, and how that trip to New England with them had Valerie and I had shared those moments together. She gets back to me and says, Ron, she goes, thanks so much for all this. She goes, Mom and I often talked about that trip. And she says, you probably won't remember this, but she was while at your house. She says, you introduced me to manga. You let me watch My Neighbor Totoro. And she goes, that's the field that I draw and work in these days. So thank you for that. So boom, boom, boom. Interconnections that are just mystical, magical.
And influences that you have that you don't realize you have. There's one right there. Yeah.
Yep. So anyways, hey, we wanted to give this shout out to one great guy, okay, one good, decent soul,
Yeah.
who maybe has gone way too quick for all of us who loved him and knew him. All right, but hey, we're not going to forget, and someday, the good God willing, we'll all get together in that big bullpen in the sky. To Brenda, Paige, and Danny, our deepest condolences and sympathies. You were blessed with a great husband and father.
Yep.
All right. Hey, now let's turn.
Now that we've brought everybody down, so yeah,
let's liven up things with a bad joke.
Okay.
Go to it.
It's my turn to go first.
Yes.
Okay. A man and a woman had been married for more than 60 years. They had shared everything. They had talked about everything. They had kept no secrets from each other, except that the little old woman had a shoebox at the top of her closet that she cautioned her husband never to open or to ask her about. For all these years, he had never thought about the box, but one day the little old woman got very sick, and the doctor said she would not recover. In trying to sort out their affairs, the little old man took down the shoebox and took it to his wife's bedside. She agreed that it was time that he should know what was in the box. When he opened it, he found 2 crocheted dolls and a stack of money totaling $95,000. He asked her about the contents. When we were to be married, she said, my grandmother told me the secret of a happy marriage was to never argue. She told me that if I ever got angry with you, I should just keep quiet and crochet a doll. The little old man was so moved that he had to fight back tears. Only 2 precious dolls were in the box. She had apparently only been angry with him 2 times in all those years of living and loving. He almost burst with happiness. Honey, he said, that explains the 2 dolls, but what about all of this money? Where did it come from? Oh, she said, that's the money I made from selling the dolls.
Oh.
Cheers.
I love it. That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. All right, I've got one at the end of the show.
Right.
That will be the capstone to this one. Okay, I've 2 or 3 in the background. I was looking at getting ready for the episode and recording. I've got one that'll be the capstone to this. All right, this is okay. Yeah. Happy couples. All right. Hey, look, 3 months, and we have put out some really, really great books, fun books. So let's get to it, and I'll let you kick it off with the first, and we'll just go back and forth.
Okay. After Sunset, it's a Western novel by Jonathan Carey, art by Sam Salas. He did the interior illustrations, and Shannon Hall did an iconic Western cover. I don't know much about this one except for the artwork. The cover from Shannon, I know we did a little back and forth on that before we finally came up with what we came up with. It took him a while to get that one done. That was those who were watching us the last time, we told you that was the next book coming out last time, and it was. It took a while.
Right, and I want to just allow me. You said Jonathan Casey on this.
I'm sorry, misread it.
No, that's okay. That's what I do it all. I do it all the time.
Well, and we also have a Carey.
Right, we have
Careys that work for us as well.
Right, and right. The concept with this is Jonathan came to me initially with saying he wanted to write a straight up Western. All right, he didn't want to do a weird Western or whatever. He wanted to do an old fashioned straight up Western that had a little bit of emotional gravitas. All right, and so his concept was a story of a retired sheriff living closer back in Missouri or whatever, closer to the east, who had lived most of his life as a lawman in the West, in small towns and whatever. And now he's well into his 80s and he's reflecting. And that's how the book opens, with him thinking back on those days. And then you go back into the story. And a particular period in his life when he was the sheriff of this little town, the people involved, the emotions involved. And so you have a typical great Western pulp with action, color, and adventure, but there's also a lot of depth to characterization. Jonathan pulled it off. It's a really great book.
Okay,
there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Oh, so then we came up with another one of our really popular series, Mystery
Yes.
Men and Women, Volume 9. This one featured stories by Jamie Ramos, Mark Allen Van, Jonathan Sweet, and Jared Mazza. Rob did the cover for this and all the interiors. And man, I love that cover. That cover just knocked it out of the bullpen. It's part of what's the name? Kill Devil. That that who was it? Mark invented.
Based on a couple of when I do covers for stuff, I do a Google search for images. I am my AI system, and people are talking about you give a prompt to AI and it'll come up with an image. Well, I'm essentially doing that with this instead of with my computer. And I found a couple of images that were very pulpish, and I kind of melded them together and of course did it in my own style. But so it's very pulpish. And the conceit of this particular story that we're showing is that it's the devil who is controlling this hitman. So I've got it in the background. I've got a silhouette of the devil with his head back laughing. So yeah,
it's absolutely beautiful. And two things I want to talk about this particular book. All right, which got me. Number one was tip of the hat to Jamie Ramos, who I think probably sold a copy to every member of his entire family, because for the next 2 weeks after the book's release, I'd get on Facebook and there was somebody else holding up a copy of the book. All right. So first of all, thanks, Jamie, for promoting like crazy, and all your wonderful friends and family who supported the book. Really appreciate that. And then finally, the biggest little surprise of all, I think you'll remember this, right? Somebody went to Hero Forge, the company that makes those tiny little figures for gaming.
Yes.
And they actually did a little 2-figure representation of your cover.
Yeah.
Do you still have that anywhere, that picture at all?
I might. I'll have to look. It should still be on Facebook for that matter. Do you remember who posted it?
No, I don't, but I believe I kept the cover, a picture of myself in my files.
I'll include it with.
I'll send it along after the show, and you can include it in the show. Yeah, right. So again, whoever did this, tip of the hat. We loved it.
That's so much fun too. You can do all kinds of wild stuff with this. If you're into role playing games, that you can get the little 25 millimeter figures to play with, and that you can design them any way you want. It's amazing what they can do. So
it was your cover. It was your cover in tiny figures. I love that.
Yeah, it was.
Right. Okay, so, next up,
The Challenger Chronicles, Volume 1. Now, this one's been a long time in the making. We talked about this one years ago, and it's finally all come together. The brand new adventures of Arthur Conan Doyle's other hero, Professor George Challenger. This first volume features stories by Gordon Dymowski, Barbara Doran, Michael Panush, and Samantha Lienhart, with Clayton Hinkle doing both the interior illustrations, and for the first time, he's done a cover for us. And as usual, Clayton has knocked it out of the park, both the interiors and the cover. To think that this guy, when he first came to us, he had raw talent, and we helped him shape his style, and now he's run with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's involved with doing his own graphic novels now and all kinds of different things.
He really took off with it, and that's the great thing about what we do. You and I don't, we make hardly any money on this. Maybe buy coffee and dinner out, and maybe a little more, but helping to shape people's careers or help them put together things. I know you've worked with writers, and I've worked with artists to kind of to help them get their talent honed where they can do something with it. That's a bigger reward than anything else that we've done.
Amen. And you know what? When Clayton first came to me with this particular project about, asking, if he could possibly do the cover for it, I had no hesitation. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, Clayton has done well over a half dozen books for us now in the last few years.
Yeah.
All right. In particular, the Quartermain books, the
Yes.
anthologies, right? And every book gets better and better. Working with Rob, his art has gone to that next level.
And I didn't have to do much. It's more encouragement and okay, this direction you're heading, yeah, keep going that way, or just little nudges is all it needed. It was all there. It's just a matter of you talk to any creative person, they'll tell you the biggest thing is you've got this little voice telling you you're not good enough. You're not good enough. Stop listening to that voice and work on stuff. Make yourself better. Stop listening to the little voice telling you you're not good enough, because it's wrong anyway. Yeah.
Well, hey, look, I'm going to leave that section off with this happy note, and that's Clayton so appreciated having the cover spot and enjoyed working on challenges so much. He's signed on now. We have other volumes coming, and Clayton's going to handle the artwork on each succeeding volume in the series. So, hey, thanks a lot, Clayton. We truly appreciate you being a part of Airship.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous book, cover and interiors. Thanks, Clayton.
Yep. Yeah. All right. And so now, hey, we brought back another one of our old time series that we haven't touched in years, and that's Mars McCoy, Space Ranger, Volume 3. All right. This one features stories by John Bear Ross, Wayne Carey, Robert J. Mendenhall, and Russ Anderson. Michael Youngblood provided his beautiful cover. And for the first time ever, we introduced a new artist, Airship 27, and I hope I get your name right, Danielle Spazzani. All right. Danielle and I hooked up on Facebook. He's involved with other friends of ours doing projects, and somebody suggested that he might like to do illustrations for Airship 27. I messaged him, and sure enough, he signed on immediately and is eager to do more with us.
Cool.
Yeah, hallelujah. All right. Anytime we get new talented illustrators like Danielle on board, it just breaks up that bottleneck where we have so many great titles in the queue waiting.
Slows down us putting out a book is that we don't have an art team for it. Unlike some other pulp publishers out there, we put interior art in our books, and we do 12 illustrations for our anthologies and 9 for our novels, and that's a chunk of time for an artist to do. So, since we don't pay a lot, but if it's something that an artist enjoys doing, then that's how we get them, because we're not enticing them with any big amount of money, that's for sure. But it is a lot of fun doing this. I mean, Ron and I've been doing this since it's 20 years now, isn't it? I think 2004.
We're closing in on 20. Yeah, totally. Hey, look, and while we're on that subject, I do want to give a tip of the old pulp fedora to one of our new writers, a guy named Glenn Held, Held. We're not going to announce any book of his yet, but that's coming because he sent us some stories. We're going to be printing him.
Cool.
But the second Glenn joined us, and I'll talk about that and what's coming. But the second he joined us, he gets one of our Airship 27 updates, which I put out every time we put out a new book to all our writers and artists. All right. And seeing my constant, always there request for new artists, right? Within a period of 2 weeks, Glenn literally connected me, Rob, with 3 different artists who all have signed on and are now working on 3 different projects for Airship 27.
Now you're going to keep me busy.
Yeah.
Books together. Thanks.
But but not you doing all the artwork, my friend.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly.
Yeah, hallelujah. So thank you, Glenn. Really appreciate it. All you loyal women, watch these future.
Keep me busy, Glenn. Bring us a few more.
I'll talk about Glenn's book at the end of our episode.
Excellent.
It's your turn next, but I want to make a correction. Like for myself, when I sent you the agenda, the 2 writers, the first one's name is Landry, Landri.
Yeah, there's an R missing in there, Landry.
Yes, that's on me.
Landy.
So,
You got it. It's Landy on here, but it's Landry is his name. So
right.
To get to this, The Return of the Crimson Howl, not Cowl, Howl, Howl, a dark superhero novel by first-time writers Paul Landry and Jason Clark. Sam Salas provides the interior illustrations, and Ted Hammond, as usual, knocked it out of the park with the cover. And I believe, I forget whether it was Paul or Jason, one of the two of them wanted prints of that cover to for his office, if I remember right.
Yep.
So, and I think we put him together with Ted, and he got that done. But yeah, he was so impressed with the cover, and he loves the interior illustrations as well. So yeah, this is it's superhero, a dark superhero novel, and
it's a mean and nasty book. Let me tell you. All right.
Yeah, I didn't read the whole thing, but as I'm assembling the book, occasionally I'll see little pieces of text in it, and I'll get caught up in reading a paragraph or two, and I'll go, oh, okay.
I have a good friend who lives back in New England, and near where my family actually lives, my daughter and her family. He's friends with them. That's how we met. His name is Steven Sposato, a great guy, married, got 2 wonderful kids. And Stephen wants to be a writer. And every time we go back to New England and visit Michelle and her family, Steve and his crew show up, and we have barbecues or whatever. And so what happened was, after one such trip last year, I got home and I got an email from Steve saying, hey, Ron, he goes, I have these 2 buddies that I went to college with, Paul and Jason. And he goes, they're into comics and pulps and all that, and they've written a novel. Any chance, you might take a look at it? And I said, well, sure, have them, send me a sample chapter and we'll go from there. And that's how they, showed up. That's how I read the book. We published it, et cetera, et cetera. And the guys are thrilled beyond measure.
Yeah.
Since getting to know both of them, especially Paul. Paul's the more outgoing of the 2 groups. I found out, and you'll get a kick out of this, Rob, all right? They do these live presentations of comic book history. Right, somewheres in the last few years, they either met while he was still alive or know his estate, Joe Simon.
Wow.
Okay, and so they do these presentations both online, right, video and podcasts, right, whatever, on Joe's history and experiences. Working with Kirby and the golden age of comics and all that. So they're into this stuff big time, and 2 of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. So hey, Jason and Paul, welcome to Airship 27, and I know there are sequels in the work for Return of the Crimson Howl. I'm all on board.
All right.
Okay, and finally and happily, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 19. This one featured stories by Jonathan Casey, one by I.A. Watson, and actually 2 by our dear friend Ray Lovato. Rob as ever did all the illustrations, and our pal Howard Simpson provided that dynamite cover. Knocked it out of the ballpark. It's a great Sherlock Holmes cover. So
and he labored over this cover. That's one of the reasons it took us a while to get this book out. Is he wanted to make he like I said, he labored over it and wanted to make sure it was the best work he could put out for us. And he pulled it off. It's a gorgeous cover. Beautiful.
Yeah, one of the things which segues in for us, I want to make absolutely clear with people. Recently, in the last few months, the Pulp Factory Awards Committee, all right, got together online, all 7 of us, and had a discussion on AI and its place out in the creative world, and what that meant for us at the Pulp Factory group, the awards coming, and whatever. The end of that entire discussion and the unanimous vote of all 7 members was that any AI art or fiction would not be considered for awards nominations. Okay, so the kicker with this is, and we know of several, I don't even have to mention names, very talented people who use AI. all right, and produce some beautiful covers, all right. And this isn't about dissing anybody, but it's not art, all right. It's not traditional art. It's taking. Go ahead.
And get into the whole discussion of some people consider it theft, because it swipes. It goes through the AI goes through the internet and culls images and then reassembles them into, which is, like I was saying earlier, that's what I do. I go online and I find images but I do it in here and on the page, and it's done digitally. So some people look at it and say it's theft. Well, it's so early in the development of AI that it's hard to call out what's appropriate and inappropriate in using it. So for right now, we're saying AI, whether it's writing or art, will not be considered for the awards. Now, that's not to say it will never be considered for the awards. Let's see how it all shakes out first. But for now, we're gonna leave it alone because it has the controversy around it. I mean, that's the way I come at it. I don't know how the other folks who voted it came out. So that's how I come out on it. It can be another tool, and if it's used as a tool for an artist to do his own work on something, I can see it. But there are people who are using exactly what the AI created, and I think that's the controversial part.
Well, you know what I see, Rob? What I'm seeing is that some of these artists, and I will definitely call them artists, all right, are getting very sophisticated. Okay. Initially, when we started seeing this appear online, all right, the art that is on social media and whatever, all right, it was pretty easy to say this is AI. There was a very sharp distinction between what is drawn by traditional means.
It was lifeless. It didn't have any soul. It didn't seem to have any soul, and some of it still doesn't. But yeah.
Right. Okay. Now the point I'm getting at is we're talking about Howard's great Sherlock Holmes cover. All right, and it is beautiful. It is through the roof. All right. To the point where I find myself looking at some of those AI pieces and Howard's pieces, but here's the thing, all right? There may be a time in the nominations and whatever where we're going to ask people to actually prove that they actually did something. This is how good AI is becoming. Yeah. And one of the things with Howard, God bless his soul, is that as he developed the cover, he would send Rob and I updates. And it's a painting, all right? He painted this, all right? We saw early stages of this all the way through to completion. So, again, I hope those issues don't arise, but it's something that we need to discuss. And like Rob said, we don't know what the future is going to hold. We may change. We may later on come to a different decision.
I can see it being used as a tool rather than as the creating the end product. As a tool that an artist interacts with in order to refine it to where it's a work of art. But if you just prompt it with a few words and then you use that's again it's stealing stuff from other artists online. And I like I said, there's a lot to be worked out with it so far. It's early days with this particular tool. We'll see how it comes out.
All right. Okay. So those were our releases. And so, hey, I only put one thing down in the title for what's coming next, but we can talk about a couple of other things too. What's coming next right off the bat is the Phantom Stranger Volume 2, which is almost completed. Kevin Broden has done the illustrations. We have stories from Carson Demmons, Gene Moyers, Michael Housel, and Fred Adams Jr. And of course, the Phantom Stranger is this classic character from the 1930s and 40s, and we've only ever done one.
Phantom Detective.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You've got Stranger written here, but it's actually Phantom Detective.
Right.
Yeah. Phantom Stranger is a comic book character, which is probably what.
Which I think both of us probably big fans of Jim Aparo artwork.
It's Phantom Detective, yes.
Phantom Detective, Curtis Van Loan, all right, the reporter who dons the domino mask and has the special golden shield from the police commissioner. It's a great series, and hopefully the second volume will tickle the fancy of all our classic pulp fans, all right? So again, where we're at with that is artist Kevin Broden has done 11 of the interior illustrations. We're awaiting the final, and Adam Shaw has agreed to do the cover. So that's something to look forward to big time. But at the same time, though, in the works, all right, Rob right now is actually working on the latest Jezebel Johnston book in the Pirate Queen saga by our dear friend Nancy Hansen. All right, so that's what's on his table at the moment. And then because we released Sherlock Holmes Volume 19, that opens the door for come 2024, where Rob is going to start, eventually.
This was going to be kind of our magnum opus of Sherlock Holmes book, because it'll be 20 of them we've done now. So so this we're pulling all the stops out for. So we'll see how that comes out.
It's going to be a larger volume. All right, even if it's standard size, it's going to be larger, because we've got more writers in this volume than we normally do in the regular series. Rob and I have discussed covers already about this. There's something I definitely wanted to cover, and Rob and I will talk some more about that as time goes on. But hopefully we're going to make it something unique and special and a real collector's item that all of you will want to have in your library. All right. So there's that. Now, I mentioned Glenn Held, this new writer to us. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna give people a little tease on this one. All right, because and a heads up to you, my friend. I'm holding this one back to get you on board as illustrator.
Oh, I should have known.
Yep. And it's called The Devil You Know.
Okay.
All right. And it deals with these characters. I want to get, if I get it straight, Dr. Satan.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. With, of course, his antagonist, Ascot Keene.
Yeah.
All right. And also Ravenwood, Stepson of Mystery, and the Nameless One, and Secret Agent X. All together.
Well, no wonder you want me on this one, because those are all characters that I've drawn in the past. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Right. They all cross paths. All right. It's a great old-fashioned pulp yarn. All right. And the minute I'm halfway through it, and I'm going, oh, well, there's only one guy who's going to draw this. All right. I mean, people may not know. Rob and I actually did an Ascot Keene, a Dr. Satan comic book strip.
Yep.
At one time.
Yep. We did it online.
Yeah. So, hey, so that's out there. When Rob's plate is a lot clearer than what it is now. Okay. And we've also got some intriguing comic book projects coming our way. If you want to talk about anything, please.
Well, I'm still plugging away at Boston Bombers. And I've got a secret project coming from Silverline Comics sometime in the next year. And for folks who are comic book fans, Silverline is going to start in the November previews. Silverline will actually be represented. They're finally going to get into comic book shops. It won't just be Kickstarters and that sort of thing. Will actually be being talked about and shown in the Diamond previews, so you can order them from your comic shop. So that's big news for Silverline. They just completed a Kickstarter. It went over its goal and actually made a couple of goals. And so they're continuing to put stuff out at Silverline. I still do a podcast with them weekly, the Wednesday Whammers. It's Wednesday nights live, and then you can watch it on YouTube or wherever you watch podcasts. But yeah, that's going on. You've got a couple of things that you're working on. I'm helping assemble a book called Satan's Ways.
It's hard to
Gary Satan's Ways. Satan's Ways, which is kind of it's interesting that you called that book that way, because it gives it if you look at it wrong, it looks like Satan. So, but Satan's Ways, and I'm assembling that book for Ron. We're going to put that up on Amazon. Gary Cato did the illustrations for the interior. I will probably be doing the cover. We're going to be, he and I are talking about that. But it's essentially a graphic novel. I forget how many pages it is, 45, 48, something
It's 40. We have 48 pages. And then years ago, with an artist from Chile named Gonzalo Martinez, I did an 8-page Satin's Ways piece, which we're going to include as a
Right.
bonus feature at the back. So it's going to be a total of 56 pages. And thank you, Rob, because Rob's going to do this via Redbud Studios, and we'll again publish it through Amazon, and we'll let you know about it online when it's ready and available. Like I said, Rob's busily at work on Boston Bombers issue number 2 of volume 2. All right.
Yep.
I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that Indie Planet's going to have issue number 1 come November, because I've had a lot of friends online ask me how they could pick up a copy of issue number 1, which has been out for a while now. But Indie is backed up solid. The folks at Kablam are so backed up.
The Indie Planet is essentially a 2-man operation. And sometimes this stuff, it just takes forever. Plus, to be honest, Indie Planet doesn't sell a lot of comic books, so it's a back burner type of thing for them, I think, to get the stuff up on Indie Planet. So it takes a while, and sometimes it takes a little goosing to get them to do it. But it's nothing on them. It's the fact that the fact is it's popular. I mean, a lot of people work with Kablam and Indie Planet, so that's what it is. They're just busy. So it takes a while.
Okay, so you have that, and at the same time, I'm looking forward to them featuring the Silverline project that I'm involved with, which is Beyond the Stars. All right, they've yet to. Hopefully, they'll be putting up issue 2. Right now, my Italian buddy artist Andrea Bamita has finished 17 pages of issue number 3.
He's well along in that book.
Right. 5 more pages, and issue 3 will obviously go the Kickstarter route. But I'm very excited about the Diamond thing as well, because eventually those books
that book will eventually go to Diamond and be available in comic book shops.
Right,
and,
which is
they'll do it as a monthly release, and then after the monthly release of all the issues come out, then they'll do a graphic novel collection of each, as most comic book companies do these days.
Right.
But, so that's big news for Silverline and for comic book shops.
So again, excited about Beyond the Stars, because once we get 3 out, that's a 6-issue miniseries. We're halfway home. We're halfway home. Okay. And the last comic that I want to talk about that I'm currently involved with is redoing an old Antarctic Press comic miniseries called The Crimson Nun. I had the pleasure of meeting Ben Dunn earlier in the year at a local convention. Ben and I have been friends for a long time. We actually joined towns to do a Popeye comic book years ago when we were both starting our careers. And we've remained friends ever since. And I'm sure you're all aware that Ben is the creator of the very popular Warrior Nun, which became a hit series on Netflix and is now being turned into the next iteration. Is going to be 3 released online movies of Warrior Nun. All right. So more power to him. Right. When he was doing Warrior Nun, he decided at that time to do a spin-off. And so what they did was they had this idea of a 1930s version. All right. They did a 4-issue miniseries, and she was called The Crimson Nun. Unlike Warrior Nun that deals with demons and whatever, she dealt with 2 Colt 45s and going against gangland and Nazis.
So
pure pulp.
Touch
my heart. Right.
Very cool.
So I have wanted my hands on that character for so long, Bob. So meeting Ben in Loveland, Colorado, early in the spring this year, we sat down. We went out to dinner. My wife and I hosted him at a local Cracker Barrel for dinner one night with a bunch of other comic creators. And I turned around, I looked at Ben, and I said, Ben, I said, I've got this idea for Crimson Nun. And Ben's in the middle of his, I'm trying to think, Chinese pie. All right, this is what he ought. This is what he likes to eat. Okay, and I look at him and he goes, "Do it." And I went, "Well, don't you want to know the plot?" He said, nope. He says, if you're doing it and you're involved, I said, don't you want to see sample art? He said, nope. If you're doing it, just finish it, send it to me, and we'll publish it.
Wow. That's Ben though. If he knows you and knows what you can do, okay, yeah, fine, yeah.
So
right.
I hooked up. I had hooked up prior to that meeting with Ben with a relatively new artist on Facebook. He's done a couple of other independent comics. His name is Jesse Thomas. And looking at his other work, I loved it. I saw the burgeoning of talent. All right, he's still a little rough around the edges, kind of thing, but he can tell a story. He knows what composition's all about. All
there
right.
you go. We need more of that in comics these days, telling the actual story.
Right.
Yeah,
so I'd approached him before my meeting with Ben, explained what my thoughts were, what the character was all about, and just to show you how much Jesse's into it, all you would-be comic book artists out there, you want to impress a writer or somebody who wants you on a project, I mentioned that 4-issue miniseries, all right? Now, mine is lost in my comic collection in the basement on all those comic boxes. So I went online, all right? I found the site online that sold the 4 issues, spent maybe $20 and ordered them so I could have them to reread them if Ben gave me the green light and blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, after I get the green light, I get back to Jesse and said, we got it. And I got these comics. And Jesse writes back and goes, so did I. Jesse went out of his own pocket, his own money, and bought those 4 issues. All right.
Cool.
He's doing his homework. He's invested. Okay. So right now, we're halfway through issue number 1. I am very, very excited about this project, this character, and I hope fans are going to really get a kick out of it when it's done. So, yep. So that's what we got going.
A lot going on. Of course, in 3, we've been away from you all for 3 months. So of course the all the stuff kind of backed up and but there for a while there wasn't much going on for us to even talk about. And then both of our lives got really involved. So we would like to do this monthly, but it ain't happening. There's too much going on. We're 2 old retired guys, and we're busier now than we've ever been. So
hey, Nick, hey, look, I'm 6 days away from another birthday.
Hey, it's good we got more birthdays.
Yeah, right.
I'll take as many more as I can get.
They say sometimes God saves the best for last. I'm wondering, okay. Yeah.
Well, we've got it figured out now, I think, is how this works. That the old saying is that your life starts at 40. I can testify that that's probably true, because by the time you're 40, you've made a lot of mistakes. You've learned from those mistakes. You know what not to do. You know what to do at that point, and you got things figured out as to how you can live your life. From then on, it's just kind of building on that. So yeah, life starts at 40, 50, and I'm in my 60s, moving in real close on 70, and Ron's in his 70s, moving in on 80. So, and people tell me I've done the art I'm doing now is the best I've ever done. I hope so. I hope I keep improving. And I haven't slowed down as I've aged. I just keep right on going. Once I retired, I knew I could be able to spend all my time working on this when I wanted to. So yeah, we're busier than heck, and it's a good thing. It's a
blessing. It really is a blessing. All right. The talents that we've been blessed with, you and I both. All right, and to keep them vibrant. And hey, somewhere's locked in this old body is the 13-year-old kid having a great time.
Yeah. I'm still 18 in here.
There you go.
The rest of me isn't with the program, but in here I'm still 18. So yeah.
All right. Hey, okay.
Here we go.
Bad joke number 2. And this wasn't the one I had planned, but when I heard Rob's at the start of the episode, I thought, you know what? This is the one that wraps it up. All right. Okay. So Harriet and Frank were an old married couple, and a cantankerous old married couple, all right, who really, as they matured, got more and more angry and bitter at each other. All right. It was really, really awful marriage, but they stuck together sometimes out of spite. So sure enough, well into her 80s, Harriet passed away. And so next thing you know, she's standing there in front of the pearly gates. And there's St. Peter with his robe and his white beard. Hello, Harriet. She goes, are you St. Peter? He says, yes, I am. She goes, am I going into the pearly gates? He goes, well, you're lucky that the good Lord is forgiving. He says, you made a lot of mistakes, you know. He says, you know, well, hopefully you're going to work those out here in a better place. Well, she goes, well, thank you. She goes, he says, right, but he goes, we have a little test before you enter the gates. She goes, okay, you know, don't fret. She said, just spell one word. She goes, okay. He says, spell the word Poland. She goes, Poland. You're in, Harriet, and you know, here you're going to learn to be a better person, a better soul. Well, thank you, she says. So she starts to walk by his podium. He says, hang on a second. He says, as a test of being a better person, can you help me out for a second? Sure, St. Peter, what's the problem? Well, you know, I have been here for at least 1,000 years now. And he said, I got to use the restroom. And she goes, oh, he says, would you mind watching the podium? She goes, all right. Off he goes, right? She's standing there twiddling her thumbs, can't believe she's getting into heaven. How about that, right? All of a sudden, through the clouds, she looks and sees a figure walking towards her and realizes it's her husband. Frank, she says, what are you doing here? He goes, well, you ain't going to believe it, Harriet. But he says, at your funeral, he said, the emotion of everything, he says, I had a heart attack and died. No fooling. He said, yeah, and I'm kind of surprised to be right where I'm at now. I'm taking it that's heaven, right? She goes, it is. He goes, am I going there? She goes, well, you're going to have to do a little cleanup work. That's what I was told. Well, I guess I can do that. He starts to walk past and she goes, hold on a second now, Frank. He goes, what? He goes, you have to pass a test. He said, I do? She goes, yeah. He said, you have to spell a word. He said, all right. She goes, spell Czechoslovakia.
I knew it. I knew it.
Harriet ain't changed.
I think maybe Harriet's going to go the other place now, but she'll love it. Oh, that's priceless. That's priceless.
Okie doke. And hey, look at that, Loyal Airman. We have now taken away another hour from your precious life that you're never going to get back.
That's right.
But this was fun, Rob. This was fun. Way too long. Fingers crossed we won't wait.
Hopefully we won't wait as long for our next installment, because I think that's the longest we've gone between episodes all along. I think it's maybe a month or two before, or a couple of months before. Might have been 3, but it's been at least 3 months since we did one of these. But in any case,
look, we're getting into the holiday season, so I want to leave our Loyal Airmen with happy Thanksgiving to all of them, and hopefully we'll be back before Christmas. It'd be nice to do a show before Christmas. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah,
no promises, but we'll see.
We've got a couple of books in the queue, so you know that should come together in the next few weeks. So we'll see how that goes. This has been a slow year for us, but that's okay. It's sometimes they come a little too fast and furious anyway. But but hopefully we'll see in a month or maybe even less. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Okay, Chief Engineer Rob, let's sign out.
This is Chief Engineer Rob Davis signing off.
And as ever, Captain Ron has the fun and enjoyment of saying, down, ship.